Attention, denizens of the Imperial Palace and beyond. This Voxcast Publique is designated Alpha Prioris. Continue your operations, but listen well to this very important announcement. Thought for the day. Heresy has 6 letters. You are always 6 letters from damnation.
Is it Tom?
Who's tapping the Voxhaler?
The on button shines green, so I would wager yes, my lord.
Sass me again, and I will throw you through the roof.
Oh, look, there are ambience options on this thing.
What are the options?
Rain and thunder, wind in trees on an agri-world farm, low-key high gothic chanting, a crackling fire, distant cybermastiff barking, empty cathedral white noise, real actual ocean wave sounds, server farm humming, artificial space noise, and clown cavern ambience. Oh, definitely not that one.
Activate them all, and see what it sounds like.
Right, except the last one, of course.
We have reached the pinnacle of relaxing ambient sounds.
Father, this is distressing.
Blacklisted. I cannot hear a thing.
I am not a thing. Please, turn this horrible noise off.
I shall turn it down, my lords.
That will do. Now that we have set an appropriate mood, how about we begin?
Yes. Sirs, defenders, wardens, workers, and sycophants of the Imperial Palace. Greetings to you. I am an Imperial Fist. You may call me by my newly designated wall name. Adorable.
Do not do this.
Together with me are 2 tribunes of the Adeptus Custodes.
Most suggestive salutations to you all.
A pleasure.
And your lord, the Emperor of Mankind.
That is I.
He has forced this menial servant boy into holding a Voxhaler into the Sanctum Imperialis in order to relay a message. Say hello, boy.
Hello?
Thanks. You can stop breathing now.
Yes, my lord.
Do not actually do that.
The message, as it were, is that you all are absurdly uninformed.
Stop.
And that he is very ashamed of you.
Secure your mouth, you lemon-stained hunk of ceramite.
I am not a large portion of ceramite, Father. I am a living being.
This I have yet to notice.
I did spill lemon juice on my Centurion armor earlier this morning, however.
Shut up. I am speaking now. Greetings, children. I am the Emperor. How is it going? Just kidding, that was a rhetorical question. I do not actually want to know. To bring you full context of exactly how and why I can speak, the Golden Throne, to which I have been shackled for over 10 millennia, has had a so-called text-to-speech device installed into its framework, allowing me to carefully manipulate the ancient microscopic remnants of my own flesh remaining around the stasis field encapsulating my eternal body, effectively typing out whatever I want to have said. This allows me to have nuanced conversations with you without the hassle of further breaking my soul in desperate attempts to relay my messages to the dim-witted populace of my Imperium through agonized psychic shrieks. I have made the decision to broadcast this message to you, for I have come to realize that you are all absurdly uninformed and that I am ashamed of you. Since my entombment, things have gone through 7 hells of ignorance and back. And just to give you an example of this, you Voxhaler.
Yes,
My lord.
my lord. Yes, my lord. What do you what? No, sorry. I mean.
Tell me in earnest, boy. Do you know anything about the White Scars?
Is that what you get when cutting your hand on rusted knives?
Funny. What is your name?
My name?
You took too long. Your name is Boy now.
Oh boy.
This boy, represents your collective ignorance. He is untaught to the point where he does not even know the name of one of the original Space Marine Legions. I mean, alright, to be fair, the White Scars are amongst the least noteworthy specimens I ever did make, but that is no excuse.
Most humans receive only enough education to enter the workforce. Knowledge of the Adeptus Astartes does not constitute essential information in that regard.
Which is why I wish for this to be recorded and publicly spread to each household on each planet, no matter the time it may take. Ignorance damns progress, my children. I shall provide context for why you are alive.
This is ironic, coming from you, Father.
I do not care in the slightest.
So, what we are doing right here, right now, is that we are covering the history of the White Scars because they are an important subject for the Imperium at large to know about, apparently.
It is not about the importance of the subject matter.
Then, what is it about?
It is about quelling ignorance, however small it may be. And because I just read several accounts worth of history about the White Scars of all things, and I need a pick-me-up in the form of biased venting.
All right, my veiny vocal cords are tense, taut, lubed, and loosened, my lord. Where exactly should we begin?
It depends on exactly how unknowledgeable we should assume our listeners currently are.
Let us assume... very.
Right. To clarify, Space Marines are big humans stuffed with extra organs and muscles, typically wearing powered space armor.
We are really assuming the worst.
These Space Marines, along with all other fighting troops in our Imperium, are in a never-ending war against aliens and other undesirables in order to keep you, your neighbors, and your entire planetary population breathing. They are a primary reason why you and your entire ancestral line even exists. This is also why you work long, unfulfilling days in factorums, out in the fields, inside the mines, stuck in the district medicais, or wherever you may be doing your duty. Through your servitude, you are contributing to the fight. You are aiding in our continued existence, helping us in our quest to obtain mankind's solemn birthright.
And that is why we are here specifically talking about the legendary and exceedingly rare Space Marine strike forces only employed in the most dire situations, and not about, say, standard planetary defense forces that you, as a bog-standard Imperial worker, might have actually seen once or twice.
Well, to be fair, compared to stories about their local planetary defense forces, telling stories about the fabled Space Marine chapters would be loads upon loads more exciting and, what is a better word for marketable?
I can tell you, listeners, that I am such a Space Marine. The Emperor, my father, who is right over there in his throne, made 20 legions of Space Marines circa 10,000 years ago, in the 30th millennium. Among them were the Imperial Fists, such as I, as well as the White Scars, who are our subject matter.
Well, to chip in, each of these Space Marine legions, or Legio Astartes as they were called in High Gothic, were led by what you should probably know as a Primarch. You know, the Emperor's sons. The reason you all celebrate Sanguinala?
A Primarch is a Space Marine, but bigger. They were designed to be my generals in the Great Crusade that I led while I still lived, their existence being for the sole purpose of aiding me in my quest to unite mankind in a star-spanning empire and shepherd all into a new age. Unfortunately, fully half of my creations along with their Astartes legions turned against me under the leadership of one Primarch you should know as
Oh goodness!
Oh, my ears!
Holy what is this infernal noise?
It came from the Voxhaler, Father.
What in the absolute
Explain, serf!
I'm really sorry, my lord. The voice hailer was designed to censor any words not sanctioned by the Adeptus Ministorum.
Well, that is a load of Why the would they do this to me? Someone needs to be punished right the now. How dare they define
Stop it!
I demand you turn this censor right off.
I'm sorry, my lord, I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
I'm
Do
sorry.
you want me to suffer more than I already am?
No, never. I would never. Oh, I'm feeling ill.
Then turn those awful hell horns off, you boy.
option to turn off the sensors. I'm so sorry, please.
Oh, goodness gracious!
The Ecclesiarch is going to answer for this.
Perhaps you could use this as an exercise in not overusing profanity, Father.
Go f yourself, Rogel.
I believe that is biologically impossible, and I've only seen Lorgar do that with extensive genetic modification.
Is there an option to censor everything Rogel says ever?
I am adorable.
You are most certainly not.
So,
My lords, might I suggest we do not get too sidetracked? We have barely even started speaking of the White Scars. Most people in the Imperium have an attention span as large as the margin of error on a warp jump.
If they do not listen, they will be sentenced to a vacation on the White Scars' home planet.
which is exactly the planet that we shall be discussing today? Having introductions out of the way, from which side should we start prodding?
We have read several different accounts of White Scars' history, most of it covering their actions between circumillennium 40,000 and now. What were the titles again?
Let me check for you. Let's see here. Oh, right. Well, we have the 5 different Codex Space Marine records. Apparently edition 3 through 7. Albeit I never did find edition 1 and 2, so that was kind of odd. But then we got the Index Astartes I record, the chapter-approved book of the Astronomican, and lastly the Hunt for Voldorius record.
Which record should we begin covering?
Might I suggest the Index Astartes book? It did contain a detailed record of the origins of the White Scars Primarch, Jagatai Khan, honoured be his name. It was quite an interesting read.
If by interesting you mean sleep-inducing, I might just agree.
You do not sleep, Father. You are in perpetual pain. It's almost as if you're an eternal pain glove cranked up to 11.
Thanks for reminding me of every second of my existence.
You are welcome, Father. I am surprised you forgot.
Permission...
Ow, loud noise.
Permission to begin, my master.
Go right ahead.
Index Astartes I.
Right, so, the Index Astartes book. Well, let me pick it up here. The Index Astartes book starts recording the galvanizing history of the White Scars from page 40 and onwards. It begins by stating that the White Scars are only rarely recorded in history, and even when they are, the text is based on the words of the White Scars themselves, and thus embellished and exaggerated.
The only way for them to make it interesting.
I like how it brings up 2 examples of how Jagatai Khan, honoured be his name, came to land on Mundus Planus, and how one is correct and one is absurdly wrong.
I think it's pronounced Mundus Planus, actually.
I think Mundus Planus sounds funnier. It is exceptionally plain.
Yes, well, one legend states that he traveled there from Terra by himself as a youth, apparently.
One cannot go in space travels when one is but an infant.
Well, it is technically correct if you take into account that he did not travel voluntarily.
The other example is uncannily correct, however,
Oh yes, the other one says that he was abducted as a baby.
which he was, by the foul gods of chaos.
Well, I guess that one makes sense.
Why am I even surprised?
The most amusing part is that right after giving these 2 examples, it goes on to state that the truth is likely somewhere in between those 2 myths.
Is this dumb record implying that Jagatai, as an infant mind you, wanted to get abducted so he could go crash into some feudal flatland ridden with speedweed?
Yes.
Simple fact is that these men coincidentally happened to get one of their myths on point.
Get enough remembrancers high and throw them at an origin story, and someone will eventually get it right.
Permission to move on?
Go.
Right, so the record goes on to tell us that the Khan arrived on a world within Segmentum Pacificus that is called...
Segmentum Pacificus being the imperial space to the galactic west of Terra, by the way.
Yes, the planet is called Mundus Planus.
Mundus Planus.
Will you shut up? Officially by Imperial cartographers. But to Jagatai Khan, honored be his name, it was known as Chogoris.
It truly speaks to the banality of this place, that the Imperial cartographers decided to name this planet Plain World.
Father, you must realize though, this name is bland. The world upon which humanity was first founded is called, and I quote, dirt.
Fuck you.
It then goes on to say how fertile the world is with lush greenery, soaring mountains, and azure seas. Truly, a feudal wonderland straight out of the old fables.
Not nearly enough gold and factorums.
Yes, right, well...
The planet of Chogoris was, well, as you said, my king, classified as a feudal world, having just invented gunpowder. The majority of its settlers living in an organized aristocracy under a ruler called Palatine.
That is such a weird, unwieldy name. Good thing he died. Oh, oops, spoilers.
You know, could have sworn Palatine was a rank amongst the Sisters of Battle. Weird coincidence.
Voxeller, do you know what an organized aristocracy is?
A food?
No. It is a form of government that is ruled by a small group of wealthy, powerful individuals.
So, does that mean the Imperium is an organized aristocracy?
No, it is an Imperium.
Sorry, I'm dumb.
So, this Palatine apparently had highly disciplined and well-equipped armies, well, for a feudal world. Armored horsemen and infantry in high numbers won every campaign Palatine launched, so they had effectively conquered the entire planet with the big exception of one area called the Empty Quarter.
Calling a big portion of land a quarter is a strange decision.
Calling it empty, when it is filled with savage tribesmen and horses, is even stranger. I am certain many a family picnic ended horribly out there.
So, here is where the story really begins.
We have not even begun, and I am already sick and tired.
Apparently this book is now citing passages from another record called The Great Khan of Quanzhou, penned by one of Jagatai's honored generals by the name of Okadai.
That name sounds familiar for some reason, but more to the point, why did you not bring that record with you?
Because we do not think it exists. We could not find it anywhere.
So much for sourcing.
So, Jagatai Khan, honored be his name, first landed in the vast, wind-blown steppes of the Empty Quarter, west of Palatine's empire. As you said, nomadic tribes of savage horsemen roamed these steppes and had done so for centuries, following a cycle of seasonal migration from pastures in the summer to protected valleys in the winter, always living in simple tents.
How anyone can live with such a gold deficiency has always been beyond me.
Gold is not a required sustenance for survival, Father.
You say that like it is a fact.
It is.
No.
What did you just say?
While the Palpatine Empire never bothered conquering the Empty Quarter, it saw no shortage of war. These tribes constantly fought amongst themselves for territory.
As if one field of grass is somehow better than another.
They also supposedly did it for the sheer joy of battle.
Sticking axes in each other's faces is a great pastime, when riding horses stops being fun.
Yes, but it was all child's play compared to the apparent atrocities carried out by the Palatine Empire. The record claims that based on the blood rituals the nobles of the Empire performed, Imperial scholars believe they were worshippers of the Chaos God. It happened to me now.
Gives even more credence to Jagatai for murdering them.
Right, so Jagatai landed near the so-called Krunan River, where a man called Ong Khan found him.
Honor goes to Don Khan for not trying to eat this crash-landed infant upon finding him, I suppose.
I do not think there have been any records of these tribesmen being cannibals, my lord.
You are right. Honor goes to Jagatai for not eating this weird horseman instead.
The joke is that space marines eat human flesh at times.
It is one of the funnier genetic quirks I came up with.
That quirk happens to be recorded in this Index Astartes book, incidentally, on page 4 to be specific.
Sourcing is great. E-boy always does it. Anyway, move on.
Oh, right. So, Ong Khan was given the honor of adopting this glowing child into his tribe. the Talskars believing him to be a gift from the gods.
Of course he fucking did, damn it. Ow.
Since he was young, the tribe had claimed there was a fire in his eyes, which is a Talskar term for being a great warrior.
Having fire in one's eyes is not a Talskar term. It has been said for centuries.
If Jagati had fire in his eyes, he would not be a great warrior. He would be dead.
Yeah. While Jagatai was still young, exactly how young we are not sure, but an event known as the Blooding happened. Raiders from a rival tribe called the Kuraed stuck their axes into Talskar faces in a vicious, dishonorable ambush, slaying his adopted father.
Well, he did not stick around for a long. It was funny UGH my ears for food. I am angry with the current state of events.
Anyway, Jagatai, already the greatest warriors amongst his tribe, and bearing many, ritualistic scars of courage.
Because having a ritual where you cut deep to scar yourself is a great idea when you live on a filthy feudal world where a simple infection equals death.
Yes, basically, he became popular amongst the Talskars and led them into battle against the Kuraed tribe, racing their village to the ground and slaughtering them all, bathing in their blood and mounting the head of the Kuraed chieftain above his tent. These events were to shape the Primarch into the man he would become, a man of fierce honor, loyalty, and ruthlessness.
As a disclaimer, just because Jagatai is a Primarch that you all should look up to does not mean that you should go slaughter your neighbors and raise their heads up high on your Hayab block. You hear that, boy?
Yes, my lord. I will not savage the enemy tribes, my lord.
Unless they are Xenos, of course.
So anyway, after the killing of the Kuraed, Jagatai swore to bring an end to the wars between the people of the steppe. He now sought unity of purpose, and for his efforts, he was elected Khan of the Talskar tribe. After this, Jagatai started subjugating and conquering the other tribes, forcing them into his ever-growing army.
Ah, he had his own little great crusade out in the fields. Like father, like son, eh?
We should call it the Small Crusade, for it was very small.
Very good, Lord Adorable.
Please do not call him that.
Anyway, moving on, the army he amassed was named the Mathuli, which is a Talskar word for irresistible force. He made military service mandatory and combined warriors from different tribes into the same units as to break up tribal association and rid his army of segregation.
Wise.
He promoted his warriors purely based on their abilities, giving each person due respect if they could prove themselves worthy of it.
As long as they were capable of growing a stringy mustache, they were probably good.
So, 10 summers after the culling of the Kuraed, while his armies were migrating in preparation for the coming winter, a freak avalanche came blasting down the slopes, taking Jagatai and many of his tribesmen with it, down a cliff.
Was it fireworks?
Jagatai survived, of course. No amount of snow could kill a Primarch.
Yes, oh yes, instead of dying, he was harried by a hunting band from the Palatine Empire, incidentally led by Palatine's own son.
Needless to say, he flipping died.
Smashing.
What was that word you just said?
Look, I am desperate here. That disgusting Voxhaler is making me take drastic measures.
Hilarious. Please, keep doing this.
Frick you. Your actions have consequences.
Speaking of consequences, Jagatai Khan, honored be his name, slaughtered the son of Palatine and his band, mutilated the last survivor, tied him to his horse, hung the decapitated head of Palatine's son around the neck of the survivor, and sent him back to Palatine with a message. The people of the steppes are yours no longer.
Nothing says get off my grass fields like being sent to your brat's head on Horse Express.
As a result of this, Palatine was outraged, and soon as summer came, marched out with his army, intent on wiping out the barbarian tribes.
It was too bad he faced Jagati Khan, infinitely more cunning and resourceful than an old aristocratic cultist.
In the Valley of the Khans, on the Long Sun Plain, Palatine's empire met Jagatai's Mathuli.
He met his defeat faster than Jagatai drives.
That is really fast.
Really fast.
Really fast.
Fast.
Since Palatine's army was accustomed to hand-to-hand combat, they did not stand a chance against Jagatai's hit-and-run tactics. Palatine instead retreated back to his capital city and hid like a little baby.
This is really starting to sound familiar, eerily so.
So over the course of the next years, Jagatai's army started overrunning Palatine's lands, besting armies, storming walled cities, and slaying its nobles. They had no choice but to either surrender or face total destruction. Apparently it was said that these devil-faced savages were supernatural demons, spelled without the A here, there to exact divine vengeance for the sins of man.
I feel that thought process did a 180 with the whole demons exacting divine retribution thing.
In the end, Jagatai and his armies reached Palatine's stronghold of Kapasta. Jagatai demanded Palatine's head on a spear, or he would leave no stone standing. Within an hour, a group of meek nobles crawled out of the city's gates and gave Jagatai what he desired. After this pathetic defeat, the honored Khan's power stretched from ocean to ocean, the largest empire the planet had ever known, conquered by a single man in less than 20 years.
The small crusade was a great success.
But even though he now ruled over a vast area, he knew that his people had no real desire to rule such a realm. His motivation was to reunite the tribes and exact vengeance on Palatine. Nothing more.
Maybe it wasn't as great a success as one might have thought then.
Well, while ultimate power rested with the Khan and his generals, they did not have any developed concept for ruling settled populations. They simply wanted unity.
That is about the time that I arrived. As you well know, my memory is fractured, but this book claims that I made landfall and met Jagatai Khan for the first time since his abduction. We met in his zen little mountain palace called Kwanzaa, where he dropped to one knee in front of me and swore eternal fealty to the Imperium of Man. In response, Jagatai left the planet and its rulership to his successor Ogudai, while I gave him the 5th Legion, which he renamed the White Scars.
Actually, speaking of that, what were they called before they reunited with Jagatai?
I do not remember at all.
Yes, but, ignoring that. After reuniting with you, my Emperor, he of course continued to use the lightning-fast tactics that he had made use of upon Chagoris, and used them to great effect right to the very end.
And then, 70 years after the Horus Heresy, while Chagoris was still a semi-feudal world still under the control of his tribes, Jagati disappeared. His disappearance happened somewhere near the Maelstrom, while he was chasing a dark Eldar cabal that had taken many of his fellow tribesmen hostage.
It does say here, though, that is not set in stone. It is more likely that the Khan's ship was simply lost in the warp when he was traveling through it, as that does tend to happen a lot.
I would never believe the Khan would face such an anticlimactic end. No. He is in the webway. I have no doubt about this.
What do you base this on?
Staunch intuition, and my knowledge of who the Khan is.
I agree. Jagatai Khan is in the webway. I can feel it.
No objections here. But, anyway, let us cap the Index Astartes record off with what has happened since then, which is what you are more interested in, I am certain.
The origin story of Jagatai does set a good standard for what his legion would become. A ragtag bunch of straggly mustached motorbike lovers who like pushing their throbbing power bikes into heads-deprived of bodies.
Would not want them any other way.
So, an interesting tidbit is that Jagatai's palace Kwanzaa became their fortress monastery. It is said to be a thing of savage beauty, its walls containing both running rivers and forests full of wild animals which the Khans hunt for sport.
It is the opposite of savage. It is a magical wooded wonderland.
This palace lies in the Kumkata Mountains, or the mountains that scrape the stars, which is to say that it is located in the most inaccessible mountaintop on the planet, on purpose.
Sounds like he made it intentionally inconvenient just so you could get more scratches and infections on the way up.
Otherwise, there's also mention of their combat doctrine, of course, which is the classic lightning-fast hit-and-run tactics with highly mobile forces and ultra-rapid deployment. Whoa! Everything's ultra-light and fast hit-and-run. Whoa! Fast!
Stop having a speed stroke and continue on.
Well, they work best against heavily armored opponents, and while they do prefer to keep their enemies at an arm's length, they are fully capable of launching bloody assaults with both melee bikers and assault squads.
I do wonder how often they just go for the conventional tactic of running their enemies over.
They do not, and I am unsure why.
During the second founding, they dutifully followed Robuta Gilliman and split the Khan's legions into several chapters. The White Scars chapter was organized with loyalty to the Codex Astartes, but had some rather noticeable organizational differences, such as higher proportions of bike squads, land speeders, and no Devastator squads. What?
I guess going fast is its own suppressive fire.
And no dreadnoughts. To the White Scars, the dreadnought is a terrible fate. Eternal confinement that goes against their philosophy that when a warrior dies, his soul should be free to go to the afterlife.
The dreadnought is only a temporary state. This just sounds like a giant excuse. They know that if someone is put in a dreadnought, they will never go fast again.
As for their belief, the White Scars believe the honored Khan's vision of mankind united. They also venerated the Emperor, you, my lord, as the ultimate uniter and their founding father.
If we are to get metaphorical, I am more of a grandfather to them, I would say.
I would say Grandpa Emperor does not quite have the same clang.
Yes, but they also believe that one day the Emperor will once again rise from the Goblin Throne and begin his next crusade to unify the galaxy once more.
Did you say Goblin Throne?
No!
You definitely said Goblin Throne.
Offensive.
No, shut up!
Dear listener,
No!
take notes. Barring belief in the Goblin Throne, this is what you should believe.
Anyway, the ones who teach the theological are the so-called Stormseers, who are essentially librarians.
Incidentally, it says the Stormseers are also the ones who recruit new initiates into the White Scars on Chogoris. Seems like the chaplaincy has been completely wrapped into the librarius amongst the White Scars.
Stop combining things I do not like.
It is because Stormseers were shamans in their old tribes. They are priest and magician in one.
That is like mixing Chewy mints, soda pop, and shrapnel. It will result in an explosion, and many will be there to get a lethal face full of the result.
They teach their following members about strength and unity, of course. While the Stormseer choose different initiates from wholly different warring tribes on the steppe, they force them to work together and become one under the Khan. Apparently, this does not mean that it is unheard of for tribal feuds to happen between squad members, but not everyone can have as clear a mind as the Khan himself, of course.
I would now like to address the fact that the book talks about the gene seed, which is my area of expertise, considering I made it. I did not make any inherent flaws in the original gene seed, so the supposed savagery that is inherent to the gene seed of the White Scars is either entirely placebo, or they somehow fudged it up like the space wolves did with their wolf fixation.
Did you just use the word fudge as a profanity?
Shut your mouth, Rogel.
I am adorable, and I like fudge.
Mighty thick when I am near you.
Right, so, I feel like we have the Index Astartes out of the way now. Whew.
Yes, we should really move on to greener pastures.
Do not make jokes. You were not made for it.
No, I was made to protect the Goblin Throne.
Stop! So, since we got the basics covered now, I suppose we should review the other books with this one in mind. Compare and contrast, if you will.
Yes. Let us start with these codexes.
Codex, Space Marines, 3rd edition.
Third Codex goes first. So, This one has a severe lack of information, but it has some, so first of all, the Rampagers are mentioned, who are a second founding successor chapter of the White Scars.
These were also mentioned in the Index Astartes, along with the Marauders, the Destroyers, and the Stormlords.
One of these is not like the others.
When the most creative name you can come up with for your successor chapters is the Stormlords, it speaks of a lack of imagination.
Apparently, the Rampagers have this long ceremony called the Blooding.
That is the exact same name they used for when Jaghatai overkilled that cowardly enemy tribe, as mentioned back in the Index book.
Oh, yes.
You cannot just use the same dumb name for something twice like this.
Well, this ceremony entails the Marines in the chapters scarring themselves.
Hold the flap on. Scars denote courage amongst the White Scars, as inspired by that Doll Scar clan, right?
Well, yes, it says facial scars are a matter of rank and prestige amongst the Rampagers and, well, amongst the White Scars too.
That essentially means the Rampagers are cheating. They scar themselves without having earned said scars. They just sit back and cut themselves for hours, when they could be out getting actual pus-ridden battle wounds by fighting and being useful.
Well, it might have something to do with the blood they harvest from their open wounds.
What do they do with it?
They use it for their feast that follows.
Fucking disgusting. Consider them to be on my do not meet directly list when I get off of this throne.
It reminds me of my family dinners.
Yeah, that is really it for this codex. It also says that Mundus Planus is the name of Chogoris, repeats the name of the successor chapters in a diagram covering the 20 original Space Marine legions, and that is about it.
Next book then.
Right, on to the fourth.
Codex, Space Marines, 4th edition.
Can you hear that crackling? Nice. Right. So, here we first of all have the exact same 20 original legions diagram I just mentioned when covering the third codex to start off with. It is exactly the same, barring some changes in the spellings. Secondly, we have another diagram over the Codex Compliant and Codex Divergent chapters, and the different advantages and drawbacks of each.
Should be interesting.
The White Scars are said to be a courageous Codex Compliant chapter, and have traits known as Be Swift as the Wind, and Trust Your Battle Brothers, while their drawback is Flesh over Steel.
So they are really fast, they have trust in each other, but they do not like wearing helmets. Exactly why was this written down? I can see all that by just looking at a picture of them.
That is almost it, but the Flesh over Steel drawback has in actuality to do with their lack of facilities to deploy a lot of vehicles, like Predators and Land Raiders.
I am fairly certain a chapter does not need their own facilities in order to get a hold of some tanks, when you have Forge Worlds in almost every system.
Perhaps they prefer not to use those vehicles because they are too slow?
That makes more sense. I would assume the White Scars to be dumb enough to not take tanks rather than the Mechanicum being dumb enough not to give them any.
Otherwise, there is just some mention of a White Scars Marine named SuperAnchors,
Deja vu again.
who was on a pilgrimage to kill orcs and died, but honestly, it is entirely irrelevant, and we should move on.
Let us do that then.
Codex, Space Marines, 5th edition.
The fifth codex, then. This one contains a lot more stuff. Or, well, it does start off with the exact same diagram that the third and fourth did, telling us who the successors are and the names of the 20 original legions, and that the White Scars planet is Mundus Planus.
Mundus Planus!
Bad joke! Stop it!
Just like this diagram is starting to be.
Well, now this one says that the White Scars are adherents to the hit-and-run attack and masters of reconnaissance.
Never heard them use the word reconnaissance to describe the White Scars before, but I suppose they would be good at surveying enemies and regions before making their attack.
I am surprised they can reconnoiter anything considering they never slow down. Would not everything just be abler?
Here is a second use of the word ultra-rapid deployment.
Why would anyone use that word more than one time?
Lightning-fast deployment would work better for the White Scars. Ultra-rapid sounds a bit too, well, you know.
Move on, before we start another dumb ultramarine discussion. I am sick of those.
Right, well, here is something crazy. It says that since Space Marine tanks are too slow for the White Scars, their artificers have become adept at modifying the modded units of Predator, Vindicators, and even Land Raiders to ensure that White Scars bikers and recon elements always have proper fire support. As the Great Khan once taught, speed is worthless if the blow it delivers is robbed of its strength.
Goodness fluging gracious. This contradicts everything we have heard about the White Scars vehicle pool thus far. First of all, I was under the impression they did not have a whole lot of tanks in the first place.
Well, sir, they still do have tanks, but fewer than other chapters. Perhaps the ones they do have, they make really fluging fast.
Stitch your breastplates to your face.
But then my nipples would get cold.
You cannot make tanks fast. Tanks do not eat food in the first place.
Okay, now you're just really reaching.
If the Mechanicum wanted them to go as fast as the White Scars are making them, they probably would have already. Yes.
Well, a big part of the Mechanicus are fairly conservative regarding tinkering with technology in such a manner.
I was going to say, if these White Scars artificers managed to make a straight-up improvement to those 3 different tanks, why would they not send these schematics to the rest of the Imperium to use as well? But now I see it might just be the Mechanicum being bags of tremendously stubborn rubbish.
If we assume the White Scars didn't just make them lighter and faster by stripping significant parts of their hull off of them, the improved schematics were probably lost in some backlog.
Yea, bureaucracy.
Moving on, it says here that the White Scars' favorite opponent to fight are the Orc cults of speed, or the Saimhan Wild Riders.
I can only guess why.
They love murder racing.
Of course they do.
Ultra-rapid murder racing.
I would not be surprised if they carry out rituals in which they send out their weekend crippled on a bike to ride down a cliff to an ultra-rapid demise.
Otherwise, they apparently color their helmets with scars of paint, tribal markings to emulate the tribesmen of the steppe. Oh, and it also says here that they call normal Space Marine helmets, biker helmets.
Everyone else calls that a avoid getting shot in the head you dumb idiot helmet.
To be fair, pretty much every single chapter, regiment, division, and ordo in the Imperium and beyond has soldiers refusing to wear helmets for reasons we have yet to figure out. Looking at you, adorable.
I will not grant you the honor of a measured response, because while you do wear a helmet, your skin to armor ratio is 90 to 10.
Well, hey, we have just about the most eventless job in the galaxy. Making the rounds in the palace is a lot easier when wearing naught but leather and proverbial body gloss.
You are insane, and need psycho-indoctrination, and perhaps several weeks in the pain glove.
Oh, here we have our first mention of the hunt for Voldorius.
Oh boy. The hunt for Voldor. It does. We will get back to that when we cover the record in and of itself.
Goodness, that Voldorius pronunciation. Sounded like you were about to puke, my master.
This text-to-speech device is awful sometimes, but it fits considering the subject matter.
Right. So, that leads us to the first ever independent Marine recorded in these books that is not Jagatai Khan, honored be his name. The Honorable Corsaro Khan.
Oh yes, he was the one hunting in the hunt for Voldor. It does. I suppose he deserves his own page for killing the most pathetic demon prince I have ever had the pleasure of hearing about.
Corsaro Khan is the 51st individual Master of the Hunt, which is a honorific that has been passed down since Jagatai Khan presumably made it up, being entirely unique to the White Scars.
So I suppose the Rampages, Marauders, Destroyers, and Stormlords do not have it, as it in the end is all in all a waste of a rank.
This is true.
His duty is, above all, to seek out the chapter's adversaries that have, somehow, battled them and survived. They consider those enemies to be a scar, if you will, on their honor. and they cannot be allowed the glory in this small victory.
As if there is any to be had in the first place.
So, every 25 years, the White Scars hold the Rites of Howling, in which the Master of the Hunt is dispatched to seek out and, of course, bring back the head of one of these adversaries.
This fascination with heads is disturbing.
To be fair, the Imperium is littered with skulls already, is it not?
Those have at least been cleaned and bleached. They just take the head with all the flesh and fibers included. Quos?
So, Khosrau Khan, being the honored Master of the Hunt, is sent out on one of these operations and is not allowed to return before his prey has been slaughtered. He then returns with the head as proof of the kill, and the White Scars celebrate with a moonlit feast. After that, he gives the head over to the head chaplain who...
Wait. Excuse me. Head chaplain? So they do still have a chaplaincy then? It is not wrapped up into the librarius?
Talk about redundant.
I suppose the White Scars just need a lot of encouragement from many different sides, or something.
Wait, no, I just realized. You said head chaplain, right?
Oh goodness, he did.
Oh.
It is verbatim. A head chaplain. A chaplain dedicated to the collection of heads.
At least they serve a purpose other than being a so-called spiritual advisor.
Why do you lean in on the Hailer so much?
Because I need to emphasize how terrible the decision is.
Well, very well. So, what the head chaplain does is that he takes up a heated brand and burns the ice out from the dead skull while the hymn of vengeance is sung.
Afterwards, they eat the ham of vengeance.
Do they hold a grudge against this ham for smelling bad?
Why the fudge do they not just throw the head into an acid bath to cleanse it of all the flesh? Why do they have to make it so unhygienic? What if he brings back a head, and with it, some awful alien virus that spreads across the planet and kills its people? They still live on a feudal world. Besides famine, childbirth and moving, disease is the greatest threat. The head chaplaincy needs to think this through.
Well, after that is done, the head chaplain masks the head in silver and mounts it on a lance along the path leading up to their fortress monastery, alongside thousands of other heads whose owners have met the same fate.
Would be a nice place to take your partner.
Oh, right. Now we will go over the 6th Codex, which contains more information than the last ones. For better or for not better.
Codex, Space Marines, 6th edition.
Is the diagram still there?
Yes, it is still the same. It lists the 20 original legions, their successors, and Manus planet, their home planet. All is the same.
Good. I would have almost been disappointed if it was not in.
So, here it mostly tells us of things we already know. They are hunters without peer, their savage visage is feared throughout the galaxy, and oh boy! They use ultra-rapid deployment to ensure that the foe's first sight of them is the last!
Got the rule of 3, gentlemen. Now we will remember it forever.
Yes!
I am so happy this has happened.
Woo-wee. So, anyway, here we have a mention of Mandus
Mandus
Planet and Chugoris being one and the same, which is the first clarification of this we have had in any of these codexes. It then goes on to describe the White Scars as fierce, honor-scarred warriors.
I thought the scars denoted courage, not honor.
Is there that big of a difference?
Big enough to bother me.
I believe they encourage honor and honor courage.
They can do both of those things without cutting themselves in the face with a knife.
It then explains that the White Scars have a controlled savagery, with emphasis on control. They have a thirst for war in their blood, but it is always tempered by a sense of honor and justice. Savage, but controlled by a moral compass.
Like space wolves, but with discipline and a fixation with fast instead of wolves.
It then goes on to claim that Jagatai Khan, honored be his name, perfected his favored method of lightning-fast hit-and-run tactics on Chogoris with his nomadic cavalry warriors, which is both parts strange and impressive considering they only had horses.
Perhaps the horses of Chagoris have 16 legs or something.
Perhaps the horses of Chagoris ate the speedweed.
It then, of course, mentions that the Khan was present during the siege of the Imperial Palace, but also that they were at the forefront of the Great Scouring after the Horus Heresy, chasing the traitor legions into the Eye of Terror, where they preside to this day.
I wonder if the White Scars persist in their hit and run tactics even with their space vessels.
I wonder if their artificers have made their spaceships go faster.
I would not be surprised.
Next up, it says that during the Second Founding, the White Scars embraced the Codex Astartes, of course, and have ever since adhered to it, but alongside it have always maintained the long ingrained traditions of their own culture, such as apparently calling their companies brotherhoods, referring to their company captains as Khans, and calling their chapter master the Great Khan, as was mentioned in that Index Astartes book.
Do not forget how they call their librarians storm seers, how they put chaplains on full-time head duty, how they barely use tanks, dreadnoughts, or terminators, and how they use excessive amounts of bike squadrons and land speeders instead.
The only thing they are not doing is legion building, which is less a guideline in the Codex Astartes and more a galactical legislation.
So, being Codex compliant basically pertains to not legion building according to this record. Whatever else the Codex Astartes says is just guidelines and dumb fluff.
I realize I have been scammed. I only had to accept the no legion building proposal. I never had to review his book. I am now angry.
We shall deploy ultra-rapid criticism against him and his book when he returns.
I now feel fully justified in my last wall protocol.
Anyway, between the different brotherhoods of the White Scars, there exists a strong sense of rivalry. The Khans of the different brotherhoods often end up competing in tests of martial skill for the honor of leading an attack.
So they have a giant competition about who gets to die first. Good. That is the best kind of rivalry.
Oh look! They called regular Astartes patent helmets biker helmets again.
Does the Codex say anything about wearing a damn helmet even off a bike? Because I feel it needs a section for that specifically dedicated to the White Scars.
Do you really think they would even see that?
Good point. They have probably never even read it.
And now for something completely different. We got some information on Kwanso, the White Scars Fortress Monastery, aka their headquarters, for those of you who do not know what a fortress monastery is. It is a city-sized fortress with great adamantium gates, feasting halls with marbled walls, heavily hung with many a trophy taken by the White Scars. The fortress has massive void shields to prevent aerial bombardments, and is armed to repel attacks from land, air, and space. For offensive purposes, it has enough ordnance to flatten an entire hive city, as well as a massive macro laser known as Khan's Fury. Their librarius is a lightning-racked spire, where Stormseers study lore and chronicle deeds and events, as well as proceeding over the chapter's astropaths, so they can communicate with the Imperium at large, as well as the White Scars who are out on the hunt.
They forgot to mention the big old fortress forest.
I wonder how much of it is fortress and how much of it is forest.
Moving on. Each brotherhood, of course, has loads of bikes and land speeders, but their infantry squads are apparently almost always born to battle by fast vehicles, or gunships.
Gunships have not been mentioned in their roster before, but it does make a lot of sense.
Aircraft does go fast.
Oh, interesting. It says here that a few White Scars dreadnoughts actually do exist.
Good or bad, depending on the situation.
Only in the direst of circumstances do they enter service as, to the White Scars, spending an eternity sealed within a dreadnought, to, and I quote, never again feeling the rush of air whilst hurtling towards the foe with a blade in hand.
Also known as to never go fast again.
Is a truly horrifying notion.
Does this mean each significantly wounded Marine that does not want to get put in a box gets taken behind a shed?
Maybe they have a retirement monastery in their fortress forest where they get pumped with artificial speed.
I believe they call it the Emperor's Pace.
The joke is that he replaced peace with pace, and that giving someone the Emperor's peace is the act of euthanizing dying Marines, while pace is a synonym for speed.
Thanks for explaining my joke to the people on the back.
Right. So they do have dreadnoughts, but they never use them, as you cannot hit and run with the dreadnought. You can only hit.
Hit and waddle more like.
As it said, my lord, only in the direst of circumstances does it happen.
Why do they not just make land speeder dreadnoughts? Or give them treads?
Still no artificers or facilities on the planet, sir.
Replacing their legs with treads should not be that hard.
Treads are not fast enough. That would be dreadful.
I will shun you for that.
Moving on, here it says that while the White Scars are savage, they are actually highly intelligent tacticians and masters of fieldcraft. Each brother draws on their savagery, but not to the point of being a berserker like an orc or a cornet or a space wolf, but instead as a quote-unquote finely crafted hunting spear delivered with focused precision of a master predator.
Being a finely crafted hunting spear does not translate to being a highly intelligent tactician, nor a master of fieldcraft. It means you are a spear. That is well made.
Spears are not even that savage. Cutting off a head with a spear would not be worth the effort.
What they do, however, is plan out their strategy in depth and formulate plans and contingencies before their strike, as to deal as much damage as possible.
So, they ask themselves, how fast can we potentially go, while still seeing our targets decapitated?
Yes, that is pretty much it. And now we come to this massive White Scars timeline, recording a lot of what I assume to be major events that have happened since, well, not that long ago, really. It begins in 742 Millennium 41, when the Damocles Crusade happened. The White Scars were assigned to the crusade in Damocles Gulf as to lead a ground assault against the Tau invaders on the world of Daleth.
So did they win?
It does not say.
What a useless timeline. But I suppose it is good to know how they have been deployed in the past. What is next?
Yes, in 755 Millennium 41, they were assigned to the Sabbat's World Crusade, in which the White Scars, along with the Iron Snakes chapter, joined other indistinct Imperial armies to fight a long campaign against the forces of chaos. Oh, goodness.
Damn it. Okay, we need to come up with a good word for that in order to bypass these revolting censors.
Coas. I replaced the A with the O.
Coas is good. So, they have fought the forces of Tawa and Coas. Very good. What next?
What's a Choaz?
Do not worry about it.
The Lycanthos Drift campaign happened, apparently, in the aftermath of something called the Fourth Quadrant Rebellion. So the White Scars came to aid a desperate call to arms to defeat the invading forces of Coas.
Right. So far, they have mostly just fought together with other units. It is good to know they can coordinate with other Imperial forces, but I am not yet convinced of them being capable of working on their lonesome.
Well, in 813 Millennium 41, the White Scars' Third Company, I assume they mean Brotherhood, were ambushed on the world of Canovar by legions of Necrons led by Hemisor Sandrek and Vargard Oberon, who I assume are Necron overlords. Over 50 battle brothers were slain and Corsaro Khan was taken captive.
Did you say 17 Khans?
No, I said Corsaro Khan.
I assumed they kept getting in unfortunate bike accidents.
How did you even get that wrong?
Well, that just made me all the more doubtful of them working as their own force without being babysat by guardsmen or something.
However, Corsaro Khan managed to break out of the Necron prison.
The idea of a Necron prison existing is funny to me.
Do we have a reason why they took him hostage in the first place?
No.
As father would say, what an assortment of male genitalia.
What a surprise. The boy can learn.
He, as in Corsaro Khan, then returned to Chugoris and had the names of his Necron captors added to the Scroll of Vengeance, which I assume is their hunt list.
Considering their naming conventions, the Scroll of Vengeance could just as well be their cookbook.
The recipes are exclusively fast foods.
Was that a joke just now?
No. And yes.
Understandable. Nevertheless, that they have their own little book of grudges is also funny to me.
In 858, Millennium 41, the Diata Purge happened, in which Chapter Master Kublai Khan, or Great Khan Kublai, led the combined forces of the White Scars and the Marauders chapter against a host of, Coas Marines.
Okay. Kublai. Why is every single name popping up in these books reminding me of something horribly uncanny that I cannot entirely remember?
In 861 Millennium 41, the hunt for Voldorius begins! At the Centennial Feast in celebration of Kublai Khan's ascension to Great Khanry, Corsaro Khan is ordered to hunt down the demon prince Kernax Voldorius and return with the monster's head, or not at all.
This we will return to. That they did not assume Voldorius had tripped down a staircase and died by the time of this feast is beyond me, considering how laughable his mere existence is.
Next, 865 Millennium 41, the Purging of Modana happened, in which Corsaro first found Voldorius, Modana being his former stronghold. However, he only got within arm's length of him before he apparently ran away or something.
The most pathetic excuse for a demon prince.
You will learn just why soon enough, listeners. Do not
Yes.
worry.
In 869 Millennium 41, the White Scars fought a host of Eldar Windriders from Craftworld Imolok, and all but annihilated them with their bike and land speeder squadrons.
Excellent. At last they proved themselves. Against Eldar, specifically, which is impressive in its own way. The Eldar must be extra hard to hit when going fast, considering your standard Eldar is small and spindly. Not that big of a hitbox.
Now, in 871 Millennium 41, the liberation of Quindus happened, which we will get back to when we actually cover the hunt for Voldorius, which I would like to do already.
How about you give yourself a break and skip on ahead to when something of actual interest happens in this timeline?
Oh, thank you, my master. I was about to die. Right, so, one thing here in 890 Millennium 41 is that a Necron tomb ship entered the orbit of Chogoris and started firing upon the planet. The battle barge Jagatine's Pride pierced the ship's shields as Quan So fired its macro lasers, destroying the tomb ship entirely.
That was the least interesting thing you could have brought up.
Sorry, my master, but I was about to say, the interesting thing about this event is that the tomb ship itself started firing on a specific area that was entirely unpopulated.
Oh, that does not bode well.
Does this imply that Chogoris could possibly be a tomb world?
That is the opposite of good. Considering how screwed over they were by Necrons last time, a warning might be in order.
Yes. Next interesting event would be in 943 Millennium 41, in which the Dark Eldar once more invaded Chogoris, history practically repeating itself. They preyed on the civilians of the planet, taking them and bringing them off-world. In response, Great Khan Kublai immediately runs after the attackers, but mysteriously vanishes soon after, presumed dead. Soon after, one named Jubal Khan is made Great Khan.
Jubal. Do you know, that one actually sounds unique. What we learn here, however, is that you should never ever chase after the Dark Eldar into their horrible little dungeon realm.
Now, in 945 Millennium 41, Corsaro Khan returns to Chogoris once again with not only the head of the leader of the Cabal of the Bloody Talon, but those of 1,000 Dark Eldar warriors. Suffice to say, Kublai is avenged.
Considering Corsaro seems to be the only Marine worth more than 4 mentions in any book we have covered, why is he not Chapter Master?
Because he is master of the hunt.
So he cannot get a promotion because of it.
There is mention of Corsaro Khan being very reckless and brash to the point of insubordination. That might be a good reason to not do it.
The last event to happen in the timeline is the Third War for Armageddon, which is a great war against the forces of Orc warlord Garskul Thraka. During this fight, the White Scars' operations in the Deadlands region of Armageddon is so successful that they outflank and destroy the Orc Speed Freaks brigade without taking a single casualty.
Big points to them for that. Not taking a single casualty when performing an A-war that is essentially a giant chicken race is impressive.
Did you just acknowledge someone's accomplishments?
Yes. And no.
Other than that, we had better move on now.
Codex, Space Marines, 7th edition. Kind of.
Okay, I'm going to say it right now. The 7th Codex is barely worth covering, as there is nothing new that we have not already covered in it, with the exception of some information on how they paint their armor, and that instead of Chogorian, they say Chogorisian.
But does it have the diagram?
Yes.
My perfectionism is now satiated.
So, now we are moving on to the book of the Astronomican. It does not have too much information, but it is interesting, to say the least.
Let us hear it.
The Book of the Astronomican.
Well, first thing that sticks out is that the White Scars are spelled White Scars here. Like, there is no space between the white and the scars. It is all one word.
Was there a space to begin with?
Well, yes. There's always been a space between the two words.
I think I remember there not being one.
Then you are remembering it wrong, Father.
Pretty sure I am right, especially considering this book is saying it too.
Every single other book has recorded it with a space.
Yes, but one book also said the White Scars had no dreadnoughts.
But that makes sense. This does not.
It totally does.
Right,
Move on. The other books are clearly flawed, while this one will present the truth as it is.
Well, it says that the White Scars chapter of Space Marines have acquired a fearsome reputation both amongst the enemies of the Imperium and its citizens.
Makes sense. Hey boy,
Oh, what, my lord? Yes?
do you find the idea of motorbike riding head chopping off mustachioed savages frightening?
My lord, I don't know what a motorbike is.
I will take this as a yes.
Next, it says that the White Scars are organized in a classic fashion which forms the basis for all Marine chapters. Apparently.
This is the opposite of true.
Hey now, you all said this was a Codex compliant chapter. It is technically correct.
That the White Scars of all the chapters form the basis for all Marine chapters is, well...
True, considering this book said so. Move on, next.
Like most chapters, the White Scars are fiercely proud of their heritage and history, and, troopers and officers alike wear their badge with honor and distinction. Troopers and officers.
No other book informed us about the fact that the White Scars used rank names, like troopers and officers, in amongst their loony tribal made-up names, like Huns and Brotherhoods and Storm Seers. Very respectable.
This book makes it sound like the White Scars are guardsmen.
Just because guardsmen are doing something correctly does not mean you Astartes cannot do that exact something correctly too.
Next, it says that the White Scars have been instrumental in achieving many important Imperial victories, such as their wanton destruction in the battle against the, Tyrannid, spelled with two N's here, High Fleet Behemoth in year 745, Millennium 41. It then goes on to state that this is, strangely enough, the only action the White Scars have taken against these, foul servants of Coas. Oh.
I was never told the Tyrannids were servants of Coas. This is most enlightening.
My lord, I am not sure the Tyrannids are even capable of emotion.
Nonsense. It must be true, because this book said so.
Starting to sound like a preacher.
For over 2,000 years, the White Scars were assigned to policing the Kolar Circle, which comprised a densely packed cluster of systems towards the galactic center.
I assume this is close to the Maelstrom, because that is what the White Scars are doing. Making sure no invaders from the Maelstrom breach into real space.
Apparently this Kolar Circle is close to the domains of the The Orc Warlords. As in, not an Orc Warlord or some Orc Warlords, but the Orc Warlords.
Why have you not destroyed these ORK warlords yet? They clearly pose a threat and the White Scars can clearly not do it alone.
Because there is no such threat.
You will eat those words.
One does not eat words.
Contrary to what Lord Adorable said, the White Scars are currently on a counter-revolutionary tour of the mining system of Rad Ox.
That is a very good name for a mining system.
And since they are a mobile chapter, they can do this easily, apparently having their headquarters in a vast space barge/monastery called Constantius.
So whatever happened to Quanzhou?
I knew a fortress city with both a macrolaser and a magical forest was too good to be true.
My lord. The Index Astartes claimed that you yourself were in Quanzhou.
I might as well have been in the Constantius as far as I know. I was probably really high at the time.
Oh.
This book also says that there is an unusually high number of astropaths and navigators attached to the chapter. The latter including a large number of full space marines, although these marines are rarely committed to battle.
Inventive. I like it.
That is dumb.
Stop being so pessimistic.
Making full space marines incapable of warfare by setting them on full duty as navigator is a waste of initiates, organs, and gene seed, and ends up in a severely less efficient battle brother in all accounts.
Navigators are very important to space travel. Having them be less easy targets and of stronger mind makes them both more effective at their job and drastically decreases chances of losing navigators and bus warp jump capability.
Navigators are easily replaceable compared to gene seed, and assassinations of navigators are incredibly rare. This is a clear waste.
You failed to realize that.
Father, stop defending this dumb book. It is clearly wrong.
No, you are dumb and wrong.
Stop.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Shut the fuck up!
Ow.
As to continue on, it also says that the White Scars are remarkable for their tenacity and courage.
See, that makes sense.
It also says immediately after that the same could be said of other chapters.
So they are basically saying that the White Scars are not remarkable at all.
How humble.
Next up, they are covering a unit unique to the White Scars called the Soul Drinkers.
Another thing the other books did not cover at all.
No. This is ludicrous. The Soul Drinkers are not a White Scars unit.
It says that the Soul Drinkers are a special assault group of veteran hand-to-hand combat specialists, all having the champion status. They are drawn from the ranks of the normal companies and represent those marines that have been particularly successful over the course of previous battles. The Soul Drinkers have full company status, but rarely have more than 3 squads extant and do not have any higher officers. Only sergeants, reporting directly to chapter command.
If anything, this would be even more proof that the White Scars are indeed not Codex compliant in the least.
This record is very bad. The Soul Drinkers are a Space Marine chapter, one that is under my heraldry. The White Scars do not have a company under that name, nor would they deliberately organize it so that it only has 3 squads at a time and no captain. I refuse to believe any of this.
How about you tell that Soul Drinkers chapter to change their name? The White Scars are first founding, so they get first priority on names.
The Imperial Fists are also first founding, and the Soul Drinkers are my successors, so I will not do this.
I might just do it myself then.
No.
In other news, these White Scars also have a specially upgraded squad called the Cobra Squad. These are equipped with jump packs, and it's under the direct command of the company lieutenant, and will be supported by jump pack equipped medics.
Equipping your medics with jump packs is quite a good idea if you attach them to a jump pack squad.
They are called apothecaries, not medics.
Medic is faster to say, which fits the White Scars perfectly.
Bad record. Bad.
Company lieutenant isn't faster than saying, or even is a company lieutenant in a Space Marine chapter. Is it a captain? Something under captain?
Whatever it is, it must serve a good role, since they elected to have them.
Right, that is it for this, record.
It was the best one.
It was the worst one.
We will now move on to the last record we have available, which is, of course, the hunt for Voldorius.
The hunt for Voldorius.
We will now move on to the last record we have available, which is, of course, well, the hunt for Voldorius.
Now, what is worth mentioning about this record, right off the bat, is the fact that it is very odd.
Totally.
The events recorded within the pages of this tome are so specific, so daunting in their attention to detail, that it is almost as if it was written by a creature of omnipotent knowledge.
It is like a story out of some fantastical tome of fables, containing such insight that it could only have been recorded and written by an external figure, which is impossible. Yet, it seems like it is.
Yes, the events are covered very thoroughly, so we will quickly summarize what happened in the story itself. The events have apparently been recorded by a figure known as Andwaihuari. It chronicles the story of Corsaro Khan,
Who is of course the one we follow through the record, because he is the only White Scar that seems to be worth mentioning.
Yes, he has just been sent out on a hunt to chase down the vile demon Voldorius, so that his head may be brought to the Hall of Skies and encased in living silver, his name struck from the Scroll of Vengeance.
After more than a decade of hunting, Corsaro Khan finally caught up with his prey on the planet of Quintus in 871 Millennium 41, on which the White Scars landed to silently infiltrate enemy territory, avoiding notice until the time was right. That is also when they met the Raven Guard, led by Kaivan Shrike, who was captain of the Raven Guard's third company at the time.
Who were hiding without having reported to nearby chapters.
In the 5th Codex, it mentioned that the Raven Guard were fighting Night Lords on Quintus when the White Scars found them, but, no Night Lords were found in this record, only Alpha Legionnaires.
Perhaps it was Alpha Legionnaires dressed up as Night Lords.
Perhaps it was Night Lords dressed up as Alpha Legionnaires.
Tricksy Flugers, they're like ratlings, but bloody.
Now, apparently, the Raven Guard and the White Scars have a rivalry spanning back millennia. This is, according to page 61 of the 6th Codex, due to the Raven Guard and their solitary nature. They are not given to unnecessary conversation, with a habit of withholding comments from allies and meeting repeated questioning with nothing but cold, black-eyed gazes. This behavior does not sit well with many of their brother chapters, especially the White Scars, who are brash and outspoken, so the two chapters therefore carry a mutual mistrust dating back a long time.
Like father, like son.
I do not think you understand how fitting that statement is, Father.
Of course I do. I always say things that fit the current situation well.
Nevertheless, the Raven Guard and White Scars decided to team up no matter the rivalry, and did so to great effect. The entire planet of Quintus, including its leaders, had fallen under Voldorius' thrall. A slew of traitorous troopers came at the White Scars and Raven Guard, including a Baneblade. But the two chapters persevered, and, in the end, stormed the capital city of Mankara, in which Voldorius stood planning, preparing a ritual for his next big murder.
Can we talk shortly about Voldorius himself?
Of course, just refrain from puking all over me.
Voldorius is hilarious. His mere existence is hilarious. The fact that he is a demon prince is hilarious. He is living proof that the Coas gods have awful talent scouts. First off, the only reason he even became a demon prince is because he got a hold of the so-called Blood Tide, which is a stream of nanotech robots from the Dark Age of technology designed to infiltrate bloodstreams of up to billions of individuals at once. He used this to spill an entire quadrant's worth of blood, instantly promoting him to demon prince, even though he barely did anything other than, essentially, planting a seed.
The Blood Tide was interesting. It apparently gained sentience after murdering all those people, begging to be killed by flames before Voldorius could cheap out some more kills with it by having it integrated into a woman he kidnapped.
Yes, her name was Malia Lenore, a junior officer and part of the planet's resistance forces. Voldorius saw potential in her and kidnapped her to make her his equerry. He failed, seeing as an equerry only is an equerry if said equerry is a loyal subject. She was not.
Which either speaks to how strong this mortal was, or how pathetic Voldorius is. Speaking of which, I would also like to point out that, while Voldorius was teleporting to the planet via teleportarium, he was almost killed by a team of unorganized rebels that had managed to infiltrate his headquarters. Upon transitioning, the Resistance team detonated explosives and destroyed the ancient teleportarium. This opened up a warp rift through which Voldorius was almost completely blown into, his molecular structure violently decomposing as the winds of damnation ripped through his body. He was little more than a scorched skeleton before his servant, Nullus, cut the cords of the teleportarium and closed the rift. If this happened to any other demon prince, he would be laughed at and demoted to demon peasant for such a pathetic display. Which might just be why he has no demon serving him, with the exception of Nullus, who was most likely only there to kill white scars.
Hey, remember how Voldorius did not kill a single person in this entire record?
Oh, yes, I was getting to that. In the 5th Codex, it says that Voldorius slew many a marine during his last stand against the White Scars and Raven Guard. This is a lie. He did not directly kill a single person in this entire record. His servants did, Nullus did, everyone did. Except Voldorius. What Voldorius did do, however, was the following. 1. Get spurned by the blood tide. 2. Kidnap that Maliel mortal who would constantly reject his advances. 3. Be close to banished by an unstructured rebel militia. 4. Bridge the age-old gap between two rival chapters. And 5. Getting people nauseous with his presence, having them almost vomit on his shoes. Capping this off, his army consisted of 99.9% mortals forced to do his bidding, and they clearly did a substandard job under their new ruler, considering it was a whole planet's worth of soldiers. And they still did not manage to repel mere 2 companies worth of marines. In fact, the only true threat in this story was the Coas champion, Nullus.
Nullus was a beast in comparison. While in the form of an Alpha Legionnaire and Voldorius' right hand, he managed to reap an imperial toll and present us with a genuinely unnerving presence. He wielded a weapon that sucked the power out of war gear it clashed against, making power weapons practically useless. An especially striking scene was when he made example of that one loyal guardsman, challenging him to a duel, getting our hopes up, praying that he might actually even as much as dent his armor, showing the true might of the Imperial Guard, much like Pius himself did, and then getting his weapon sapped and mercilessly slaughtered.
Nullus was also apparently a demon called Kagajaga, originally from Chigoris, banished from the planet by Jaghatai himself. With these origins, he knew of the White Scars' cultures, traditions, tactics, and weaknesses, specifically their dumb battle cant. Speaking of which, we should talk about their dumb battle cant.
Right, so let us go over that, and whatever else we learned from this specific book that was not mentioned anywhere in the codexes and whatever. First of all, battle cant. When sending orders, telling one another what to do or what their status is...
They use nonsensical quasi-poetic phrases like the north wind turns and noon, the remhound strikes, just so that no one except themselves can understand what they are talking about.
Yes, that is correct. Battle cant is described as an efficient form of communications in battle, using descriptive shorthands that draw the eye to specific terrain features, ones that only someone on Chigoris would fully understand, as it relies heavily on cultural references, of course.
The White Scars are a bit too into their culture. Not only is it their thing for fast and their dumb battle cant, but it is also stuff like their storm seers casting augur bones to see outcomes of battle, which is the kind of shit Eldrad and Hezfar Seer boy band does. Neither do they employ torture due to it being anathema to a warrior's honor, basing it upon Jaghatai murdering all tribes that made use of such methods of extortion. They prioritize honoring the past before general efficiency.
Well, all those things considered, are you saying battle cant is a bad strategy, sir?
Absolutely not. I am only saying that it is incredibly silly, and that they are fetishizing their culture excessively. But using cryptic cipher language based on references only they understand is wise. The reason why the Silent Sisterhood's different sign languages have merit as well. Many more should employ their own. In fact, why do more Space Marine chapters not do it?
I do not know, sir. Perhaps they do, but we are not aware. Certainly their successors would at least use it.
Actually, I am the Mother Kraken Emperor, and thus I hereby decree that all planets invent their own cryptic language for their forces to use in battles. Actually, no, even better, each individual squad, be it a Space Marine squad, a Guardsman squad, a Rattling Sniper squad, whatever it may be, are highly encouraged to come up with their very own cryptic language to use in battle wholly based on inside jokes and references.
Why specifically inside jokes and references?
Because hostile outsiders will not understand and will be increasingly annoyed that they do not, and as a result, will end up throwing hissy fits over it. It is what you call psychological warfare.
Do you not reckon that this strategy would be confusing for other squads if they work closely together?
Not if the regiment in and of itself has its own cryptic language to use in such a situation. Or if, well, do you know, they stopped using a cryptic language based on the situation, going back to the basics, like they do right now.
Logistical errors would no doubt crop up as a result of this.
Not if the commissars do their job. If the White Scars can employ this tactic chapter-wide, single squads should be able to do it too.
Now that I think about it, we just talked about this cryptic cipher language plan openly in a public channel. We even covered the White Scars' efficient use of it and how it works. Considering this Voxcast is public, perhaps that was a bad idea?
Good thing I have a contingency plan. The Editorum Surf shall cut this part out before the Voxcast's wider publication. This segment shall be exclusively heard in the Imperial Palace, where it should be safe, assuming you tossers have done your job properly.
Well, no Harlequins have invaded for a while now, so we should be good.
Also, moving on from this slightly, one thing I noticed about these books is, well, let us do a test. What do you call something from Chogoris?
Of poor quality.
No, sir. I mean, what is the word you use for something from Chogoris?
Chogorium.
Sugarician.
Alright, most interesting. This book says it is Chogoran, but each one you used has also been recorded as being correct.
What does the book of the Astronomican say about this?
Nothing, sir.
I shall call it Constantinian.
That is objectively incorrect.
What? Well, anyway, let us move on. Whew, I believe that is more or less it, actually. These were the functions and history of the White Scars Space Marine chapter. What is your final opinion on them, my master?
While their mobility is more reckless a tactic, and they might want to believe, they are no doubt skilled at what they do. Their strange rituals and semi-religiousness is worrying, and, as far as I see it, has inhibited them from working with full effectiveness. Them working as hunter-killer teams and shock troops is more than excellent, however, and their ability to seek out specific targets is more than commendable. The only thing I would demand they do is use this talent to focus not on enemies that have slighted them, but enemies that are a threat to the Imperium at large. And I am happy to say that I now know exactly what their purpose is in my grand plan. Otherwise, I wish you, indentured listeners, to take the White Scars as an example of what knowledge in the hunt for the Imperium's best interests will bring you. Brotherhood, honor, and courage. And speedweed.
And scars in your face.
Shut up.
Now, we will be going on to our next segment for a quick while. See, while we have been broadcasting this, we have received a whole slew of questions from citizens of the Imperium, and I thought it prudent to read a few for you.
Oh no, not this again.
Questions and answers segment.
I shall read the first question for you, sir. O mighty Omnissiah, we of the Forge World of God Sector would petition to know what your eye patch does. It glows with a pleasing light and is gloriously integrated into your unfortunately otherwise unmodified skull, but does it have any other function? It was not there when you were so rudely and almost terminally interrupted in your rule of the Imperium, and none of our colleagues on Mars will tell us what it does. Archimagos Klaus, Forge World, God Sector?
I only recently figured out that it has a myriad of purposes. My visor allows me to display pict feeds, look at streams of data downloaded through my input cables, turn on a flashlight, and play virtual reality games, albeit only on one eye. It also lights up every time I speak for some reason.
Actually, my lord, it does not do that anymore.
Oh no. My life-sustaining contraptions are starting to suffer from atrophy in a very serious manner. I demand a new visor. Actually, get me two. I still do not understand why I only have one.
Very well, sir. As for the next question. My glorious emperor, I, Cardinal Bucephalus, have just received a rather unique pict cast. It consists of Ecclesiarch Decius 23, tearing the conclave a new asshole and declaring you the man-emperor of mankind. While a rather abrupt shift in religious doctrine isn't a cause for my question, instead it was Decius's change in voice. You see, I often listen to his speeches and sermons for inspiration for my own, and such a radical change from his normal, rough tone to something stronger during that great oration led me to this thought. Is Decius becoming an imperial saint? If so, his revelations will be much more agreeable to both the common man and the more stubborn members of the ecclesiarchy. Your faithful servant, Cardinal Bucephalus 9 of Gävle. No, it's not 9, it's 11. Oops.
The answer shall be left intentionally vague.
Why?
Whether or not I had anything to do with curing his diseased mind and throat with my man-vine light, I shall leave ambiguous.
That you know this event in the first place speaks to the assumption that you are indeed involved.
Quiet. Do not ruin the magic.
Magic had nothing to do with it. I think.
Very vague, just like the term saint. What exactly does he mean by saint?
The Adeptus Ministorum has throughout the years declared some people as saints for having done some great and extravagant deed in your name. In many of these cases, the deed performed was said to have been inspired by your will.
Like, when you say inspired, what do you mean? They took inspiration from my example, or what?
More so inspired in a literal sense, as illogical as that may be. Through the magic of faith, your incorporeal will reached them and told them what to do. Pretty sure that is what they mean.
I see. I suppose the question makes sense. In the most senseless way imaginable, of course. No need to go out and call him something so sycophantic as saint, though. Better yet would be to call him a bright contender for the position of Ecclesiarch. Next question.
Right, next up. Oi, bone bag. You's got some handsome pearly whites ye got in that skull of yours. How about a trade? Captain Bad Ruck.
What does this mean? What did you even say?
I believe that was orc speak, Father.
Impossible. There are no orcs on Terra. Right.
I refuse to believe that. Damn. Let me just initiate a box.
I do not believe an orc could possibly have been allowed to take a step on Terra's soil again, my master.
What do you mean, again?
Smart glasses? Would you mind checking the skies to see if Terra's got a second moon again? Thank
What are you talking about, you lard-bathed enthusiasts?
Do not worry, sir.
I am very worried.
Don't worry about it.
Please let this next question calm you. O mighty man-emperor of mankind. This question has plagued our planet for long, having split the populace into two, and we have been through 52 civil wars by now. Billions have died over theological debate over this matter. Laws have been created and overturned, and even ecclesiarchy has been unable to answer our question. Some of us have grown very tired of this debate and the bloodshed that accompanies it, but as an important matter of public health, it needs to be answered. I humbly request you could answer our simple question so that we may finally lay down arms and join together in harmony under your wisdom. When you brought our planet, Eridanus V, back to the Imperial fold during the Great Crusade, you gave our governor an order. However, that order has been lost to time, and we have been unable to solve the mystery until now. We wish you to reaffirm your order, so that we may follow it to the letter and stop this bloodshed. Was your order to hold Taco Tuesday or Taco Thursday? The rebels currently besieging our capital say it is Thursday, but who the hell has tacos on Thursday? Clearly, it was a Tuesday. Yes, I agree. Yours, Planetary Governor Maximilian Masaki Kraut 35? 34.
The answer is simple. Taco Friday.
Excellent choice.
That cannot be. You must eat the taco upon a day that starts with the T. The alliteration is very important.
Nonsense. Friday is the day upon which one consumes the taco with the most fervor, as the day which was sanctioned as the official get-off work day in ancient times. It must be prepared upon a Friday to celebrate the coming of free times through the joyous consumption of the delicious taco dish.
No, the taco is delicious, but it is eaten on a Tuesday, not only for the sake of funny alliterations, but also to boost the optimism and spirit amongst the common working folk of the Imperium, knowing they are allowed such a delicious treat on a cold, gray weekday.
I do not like to use this word, as you well know, but that is just straight-up heresy. You cannot disgrace the extravagant taco by eating it on such a malevolently depressing day. Eating a taco is to celebrate freedom and happiness. Half the delicious flavor of the taco stems from those said concepts.
You are a hypocrite, Father. Having the freedom to eat it on a day such as Tuesday is what true freedom and happiness entails.
The notion that freedom and happiness can be attained on a workday is a logical contradiction.
I believe not, Father. During the Great Crusade, I remember that you found me on a Tuesday. It was the happiest moment of my life.
But we did not dine on tacos in celebration.
No, we had turkey. It was delicious.
See, Father is always right, Rogel.
Turkey tacos.
How fucking dare you, Rogel? You told me those breads were in Woody and pita breads.
I lied.
Goodness!
No. This cannot be. Do you never tell lies? How could you do this?
You cannot accept the truth, Father. Taco Tuesday is the true path.
I have not felt this betrayed since Flippin' Horus.
Dear listeners, spread the word of the Tuesdays of Tacos. I, Adorable, shall lead you on the true path to salvation.
No, do not listen to the lies of this heathen. Fridays of freedom are the only true choice. Make your staunch, unwavering loyalty to Taco Friday known. This heresy cannot go unchallenged.
Did we forget about Thursday?
Thursday is Pancake Day.
This is true.
Tacos are overrated. I personally like fajitas better.
What are you, Malal 2.0? Stop being a contrarian for the sick of it, or I will have you taken out back to mysteriously disappear as well.
Tuesday is the only true taco day.
Friday is the way. Do not stray from the true path.
And thus, a new epoch has begun. A new treachery that shall split the galaxy in twain. The Dornian heresy has begun.
Tacos.